here for the first review for the Fierce Women book club that I am hosting along with Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf and Milena from Milena Reads. We are really looking forward to continuing on with this book club venture now that we've done our first read. And I will say, I do come to this review with a bit of disappointment, not in the book, but in my selection of the book, that I didn't kind of do more research. I had read certain places that Maria Bronte had chronic illness. And then I read the book, The Mother of the Brontes, When Maria Met Patrick. This is by Sharon Wright. And I keep waiting for the chronic illness tidbits. And it's not there, and it's not there, and it's not there. And then it's the end of her life. So I do apologize to people participating in the hopes of reading about women with chronic illness. I guarantee you we're going to do better in the future, because I know that Milena was really doing her homework when she was researching who for us to read about for the next one. So the next one is the Letters of Emily Dickinson, and I'm very much looking forward to this, reading a book in letter format. So hopefully there will be kind of more material there regarding chronic illness to see how that affected Emily Dickinson's day-to-day life. And then Naomi will be picking the, January, February, March, April, May, June. Naomi will be picking the May, June selection. So you'll hear about that. I'll post on YouTube and on Instagram, all of that. But here we are for The Mother of the Brontes. This was a really interesting read. It was fascinating. And to learn about Maria's childhood, and she was kind of a socialite in a sense. Her family was sort of well-to-do in their small community. She lived in Penzance, which it's the first time I've read about someone from Penzance. Maybe there's some Daphne du Maurier things set there, but I just know, it's in Cornwall, that region, but I hadn't read anything there. The only thing I know is the Pirates of Penzance. Which is just such a fun word to say, Penzance. So it was really fun to see kind of how her family was really up and coming in the community. She got to socialize a lot, go out to different events. There were lots of things happening. And she just had a really enriching and fulfilling life for a young woman at that time, when there were a lot of restraints on the activities that a woman could participate in. Also, it was socially acceptable for women to use snuff, which I just found fascinating. That's just so something I don't think of genteel women doing, but that was a thing. Also, there was a rotating library, and she regularly read books from the rotating library, and there wasn't much of restraint on the kinds of books that she could read. But the thing that I thought was stressful is they would get the books for the rotating library for 4 days. 4 days you would have to read a book. And so I thought that was fun. I liked the sound of the early years in her life, where she had, things to enrich her mind, and then also just getting to socialize, and she had siblings. So it just sounded like a nice time. And then she left a big collection of The Ladies magazine. The tagline for this magazine was "The entertaining companion for the fair sex, appropriated solely to their use and amusement." And so it says it offered everything from society news to embroidery patterns, history and travel articles to medical advice, sheet music to fashion plates. They also ran juicy fiction, often by female authors. Maria loved to curl up with the ladies, and we know this because Charlotte Bronte inherited them and did exactly the same, until her father found out. In a letter to Hartley Coleridge in 1840, she wrote, "I read them as a treat on holiday afternoons, or by stealth when I should have been minding my lessons. I shall never see anything which will interest me so much again. One black day, my father burnt them because they contained foolish love stories." So I found that interesting that the mother was allowed to do it, but then I think when he found that Charlotte was reading them, he was not okay with it. And it gives, from the Penzance Ladies Book Club, it gives you a list of a fair number of titles that she would have been reading. And The Castle of Wolfenbach was a very Gothic writing. German heiress Matilda is fleeing from her lecherous uncle as the book opens with an obligatory old castle, a thunderstorm, and straightaway fainting. And they just sound very dramatic. And then it's really fun because they have a quote from Ellen Nussey, who was Charlotte Bronte's best friend. And she talks about at Rowhead School that she would relay these wild tales to the other girls in the school. She brought together all the horrors her imagination could create, from surging seas, raging breakers, towering castle walls, high precipices, invisible chasms, and dangers. Having wrought these materials to the highest pitch effect, she brought out in almost cloud height her somnambulist walking on shaking turrets. So I love that you're getting a little picture of Charlotte's imagination. And so to think about, Jane Eyre is a very Gothic inspired tale. And of course, she would read Gothic novels. So that's what she would take inspiration for. Another interesting aspect is to see how the evolution of the name Bronte. Patrick's last name originally was Prunty, as in Prunty. And then there wasn't, when he went to college, he changed it to Bronte, which was it was the deity of thunder in Greek mythology. Or when he went to university. And it's interesting too, because there wasn't a real consistent thing they did with the E. Sometimes it was this, and sometimes the accent, and different sides of it, and sometimes none of them. So they are the only Brontes. I didn't realize that. So that would be why, because all of the children did not have any children. So it's really sad to think about, those are the only Brontes that lived, but also kind of special. And then you get to see the time of courtship, which does have some really sweet aspects to it. Patrick met Maria when she was living with a cousin, I think it's a cousin, at a school, West Grove School. And what's really sweet is that to get to see her, he didn't have a horse. He couldn't afford a horse. And so he would walk 12 miles each way, so 24 miles total to get to see her. And thankfully, we do have some of their letters that they kept, and we get to see those and see what their courtship was like. I think he wasn't quite as emotive as she wanted, because she would send him these letters saying, why haven't you written me back? I've been waiting for these. So it's nice to see kind of this like feistiness in her. And then let's see if there's anything else I want to tell you about from this. I like that it says her letters are alive with passion, loyalty, intelligence, wit, and learning, along with her faith and her fears. Like Pat, she can lose her temper if she suspects a slight. And we know how much she loved her Cornish life and the pain she endured when abandoning it for an entirely different life with him. I like that when you read things like this, it makes a certain character that maybe you haven't thought about a lot. The mother of the Brontes. You don't hear about her because at the time when, the Brontes are really focused on, when the daughters were writing, she wasn't there. And she didn't get to be there for it, which is really, really sad. And later on, it is sweet to hear this snippet that Patrick Bronte sent to Elizabeth Gaskell, saying she was an excellent wife and mother and a highly respected member of society. She had sound sense and an affectionate disposition and delicate tact and taste. There was no danger of her failing to impress. It was the beginning of a series of friendships that would endure for the rest of her life. And the first location that they lived in after Maria and Patrick were married, she made a lot of friends. So that was really neat to see that it does kind of is a testimony to this, the statements that Patrick was making about her, that she was able to make friends like that. And had this really vibrant, interesting personality to her. She was, being a mother was one aspect of her, but she had all of these different aspects to her. And it seems like she didn't let kind of motherhood take her unique qualities away. She was a caregiver and these other things. So then it is very, very sad. At the end of her life, she had cervical cancer, I think is what people would say she has now, which I didn't realize, but your risks go up for cervical cancer after having 5 children. Apparently that's like the number that makes your risk go up a lot. But it's so sad because she was in pain for a lot for the last months of her life, and they were all just kind of waiting for her to die. They just knew it was inevitable. She would cry out, "Oh God, my poor children," over and over again. That's so heartbreaking for you to think about, children remembering that being their mother's, some of their last memories of their mother is really just so sobering. She did actually write something too. The Advantages of Poverty and Religious Concerns. And Patrick Bronte made sure that it was published. He says, the above was written by my dear wife and sent for insertion in one of the periodical publications. Keep it as a memorial of her. So I thought that was sweet that he made sure it was published. It is very short. It's 2 pages. That's it. So I thought that was special that the book included this in it. So it is a really short book. It is not, I mean, it's like 165 pages basically of material. And then there's endnotes and things. It was really interesting to learn about her. Very sad that she did die so young. And also, what really kills me is that Patrick Bronte, the father of these 5 children, or is it 7 children? I'll put it down there how many children they had total. He outlived his wife and all of his children. He lived into his 80s. So there were decades that it was just him living in a house with servants, but with no family. And that is just, I can't imagine how sad that would be. So I'm really grateful that hopefully that would not happen to me, you know, to live that long after your children. I really hope that's not something I would have to live through. But it was a really interesting read. Thank you if you joined us for the Fierce Women Reads. Again, sorry that I didn't quite vet this quite enough for the purposes that we were doing. It seems like even though everyone went in interested in the chronic illness angle, it seems like even though it didn't have that, people still enjoyed the read despite that. So if you would like to join our Voxer group, don't hesitate to let me know down below and we will make sure you get added in for the Emily Dickinson letters discussion. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back with the next Fierce Women Reads video at the very beginning of May, talking about Emily Dickinson's letters. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.